My name is David Mitchell, and until 2:41 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon in January, I believed that 18 years of loyalty meant something at Greystone Logistics. That's when our new managing director, Lauren Hayes, projected my compensation package onto a 65-inch screen in front of 200 employees and called me a legacy cost that needed to be right-sized. I'm 51 years old. For the past 18 years, I've been the senior partner of client operations at Greystone Logistics in Atlanta, personally managing $190 million in annual contracts across 63 enterprise clients in the Southeast. My wife Karen is a nurse practitioner at Emory. Our older son Tyler is a junior at Georgia Tech studying mechanical engineering. Our younger son Brandon just started his freshman year at Auburn. Between 2 college tuitions, a mortgage in Decatur, car payments, and the usual expenses that come with raising a family in Metro Atlanta, we're comfortable but not wealthy. Karen and I are both working professionals who've spent decades building something stable for our kids. What I was not prepared for was a 38-year-old private equity executive turning my entire career into a line item on a PowerPoint slide. Lauren Hayes arrived at Greystone 2 months before that Wednesday meeting. The board brought her in after our founder retired, specifically because of her background at Ridgeline Capital Partners, where she'd spent 7 years restructuring mid-market companies for acquisition. The playbook was obvious to anyone who'd been around long enough. Come in, cut costs aggressively, make the financials look attractive, position for a sale within 18 to 24 months. I'd seen it happen to competitors. I just never thought it would happen to us. That Wednesday morning started normal. I had coffee with Marcus Thompson, our VP of Finance, in the break room before the all-hands meeting. Marcus had been at Greystone for 12 years, and he looked tired in a way that went beyond lack of sleep. She's been auditing every department's headcount and compensation since her second week, Marcus told me, running everything through some proprietary valuation model from her PE days, comparing our costs against industry databases that don't account for anything we actually do. I wasn't worried. My department's numbers spoke for themselves. 96% client retention over 18 years, 14% compound annual revenue growth. I'd personally negotiated the renewal of every major contract Greystone held in the Southeast. My compensation was $310,000 total package, which sounds like a lot until you realize I was directly responsible for maintaining $190 million in revenue. That's roughly 16 cents for every $100 I brought in. The all-hands meeting was unusual from the start. Lauren had invited the entire Atlanta office, about 200 people, into the main conference hall on the 3rd floor. Normally, all-hands meetings were quarterly updates with coffee and donuts. This one had assigned seating, no refreshments, and a presentation titled Building a Leaner, Stronger Greystone displayed on the screen when we walked in. Lauren opened with 15 minutes of corporate language about market headwinds and competitive positioning. Then she transitioned to what she called our Organizational Efficiency Initiative, which involved department-by-department breakdowns of headcount costs versus revenue contribution ratios. Some departments were flagged for consolidation, others for outsourcing evaluation. The operations team shifted uncomfortably when their slide appeared showing proposed headcount reductions of 30%. Then my name appeared on the screen. Not my department. My name, my title, my base salary, bonus structure, benefits package, and total annual compensation of $310,000 displayed in a bar chart next to what Lauren described as the market-aligned benchmark of $165,000 to $195,000 for comparable logistics account management roles. David Mitchell, our senior partner of client operations, currently represents one of the most significant compensation outliers in our organization, Lauren said, using a laser pointer to highlight the gap between my bar and the benchmark bar. At $310,000 total compensation, we are paying approximately 70% above market rate for what is fundamentally an account management and coordination function. This is exactly the kind of legacy cost structure that erodes margins and makes companies uncompetitive. Legacy cost. She called 18 years of building Greystone's client base a legacy cost, in front of 200 people. With my salary displayed like a courtroom exhibit, I could feel the temperature in my face change. Not from embarrassment about what I earn. I've earned every dollar through years of midnight phone calls during shipping emergencies, flying to client facilities during hurricanes to personally ensure delivery commitments were met, and building the kind of trust that keeps a 63 client portfolio intact year after year. The heat came from having my personal compensation broadcast to colleagues, junior staff, assistants, people I managed, all staring at a screen that reduced my career to an accounting problem. Marcus, sitting 2 rows ahead of me, turned around and made brief eye contact. His expression said everything his mouth couldn't in that room. "Lauren," I said, standing up because I wasn't going to have this conversation sitting down while 200 people watched. I'd prefer to discuss compensation matters privately rather than in an all-hands setting. There are confidentiality considerations around individual employee compensation. This isn't about any individual, David. This is about organizational cost structure. Lauren didn't even look at me when she responded. She kept her eyes on the room, performing for the audience. Every company has positions where compensation has drifted above market reality over time. It's not personal. It's mathematics. Mathematics. She'd reduced 18 years of relationship building, crisis management, and revenue generation to mathematics that happened to ignore the $190 million those relationships produced. "With respect," I said, keeping my voice level, "the benchmark data you're referencing compares my role to generic account management positions at companies that handle a fraction of the contract volume I manage. My portfolio generates $190 million annually. That's an average of over $3 million per client relationship. My total compensation represents about 0.16% of the revenue I directly maintain, which is precisely the justification narrative that allows compensation drift to persist," Lauren replied, now turning slightly toward me with a practiced look of patient condescension. "Every senior employee believes their contribution uniquely justifies above-market pay. But the data tells a different story. Clients work with Greystone because of our infrastructure, our network, our pricing. Account management oversight supports those institutional strengths. It doesn't create them." I looked around the room. 200 faces, most of them avoiding eye contact. A few people from my team looked angry on my behalf, but weren't going to challenge the new managing director in her first major presentation. Denise Park from HR was typing rapidly on her laptop, which I recognized as the documentation behavior that happens when someone in leadership is doing something legally questionable. "What's the proposal?" I asked. Lauren clicked to the next slide. A revised compensation structure showing $185,000, base salary, eliminated bonus potential, reduced benefits. A 40% cut in total compensation, presented with a neat blue arrow showing the adjustment path from current to market aligned. "We're proposing a compensation correction to bring this role in line with industry standards," she said. "This adjustment alone saves Greystone approximately $125,000 annually and sends a clear signal to the organization that we're serious about building a sustainable cost structure." She said it like she was announcing a facility upgrade. Calm, professional, completely detached from the fact that she just publicly proposed cutting my income by 40% in front of every person I worked with. The meeting continued for another 30 minutes, but I stopped processing information after the first 5. I was doing 2 things simultaneously. First, I was calculating what a 40% pay cut would mean for Tyler's tuition at Georgia Tech, Brandon's at Auburn, our mortgage, Karen's student loans from her nurse practitioner program that we were still paying off. The math didn't work, not even close. Second, I was thinking about a phone call I'd received 5 months ago from Robert Chen, CEO of Meridian Logistics Solutions, Greystone's biggest competitor in the Southeast. Robert had been trying to recruit me for nearly 4 years. His most recent offer, made over dinner at a steakhouse in Buckhead, had been the most serious yet. Executive Vice President of Client Partnerships, full profit and loss authority over the Southeast Division, equity stake in the company, and compensation that he described as reflecting what your relationships are actually worth to whoever has them. I'd turned Robert down 5 months ago because I felt loyal to Greystone, because I'd built something there over 18 years, and it felt wrong to walk away. That loyalty had just been projected onto a screen and labeled a legacy cost in front of 200 people. When the meeting ended at 3:15 p.m., I walked to my office, closed the door, and sat at my desk for exactly 4 minutes. On my wall were framed letters from clients thanking me for solving problems that saved their operations. A plaque from the Georgia Logistics Association for outstanding partnership development, photos from industry conferences where I'd built half the relationships that kept Greystone profitable. Lauren Hayes had just told 200 people that all of this was worth $185,000 as a replaceable coordination function. I picked up my phone and called Robert Chen. "Robert, it's David Mitchell. I need to ask you something directly. That EVP position you offered me 5 months ago, is it still available?" "David, what's going on?" I need to know if it's still on the table before I make any decisions. Is it? There was a brief pause. It's not just still available. We've been holding it specifically because we want you in that role. We haven't found anyone else who brings what you bring. What happened? Our new managing director just displayed my salary in an all-hands meeting in front of 200 employees and called me a legacy cost. She's proposing to cut my compensation by 40% and reclassify my role as basic account coordination. Robert was quiet for a moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. David, I want you to listen carefully. Don't do anything emotional. Don't resign today. Come to my office tomorrow morning at 8. We'll have the offer letter ready, reviewed by legal, with terms that reflect what you're actually worth. I want you to have the signed offer in your hand before you make any moves. Can you do that? I can do that. Good. And David, just so you know, our offer has improved since 5 months ago. We closed 2 major distribution contracts last quarter, and our growth trajectory means we can be significantly more generous with equity participation. Tomorrow at 8, I hung up and took a breath. Robert's advice was exactly right. Confirm the landing before you jump. I spent the rest of that afternoon in my office, answering routine emails, acting normal. At 5:30 p.m., I drove home. Karen was in the kitchen when I walked in. She'd gotten home early from Emory and was making pasta. She took one look at my face and turned off the stove. What happened? I told her everything. The all-hands meeting, my salary on the screen, legacy cost, the 40% cut, the call with Robert. Karen is a nurse practitioner. She spent her career making critical decisions under pressure, assessing situations quickly, and acting on evidence rather than emotion. She listened to the whole story without interrupting, then asked 3 questions. Is Robert's offer confirmed? Not yet. I'm going to his office tomorrow morning to finalize. What happens if you stay at Greystone and take the cut? We pull Brandon out of Auburn, probably. Defer maintenance on the house. Stop contributing to retirement for at least 2 years. And I spend every day working for someone who publicly humiliated me to prove a point about cost management. What happens to your clients if you leave? They'll make their own decisions. But most of them have my cell phone number. And most of them have told me at some point that they work with Greystone because they work with me. Karen nodded. Go to Robert's office tomorrow. Get the offer in writing. Then make your decision from a position of strength, not desperation. This is why I married her. Thursday morning at 8 a.m., I was sitting in Robert Chen's office at Meridian Logistics Solutions. The offer letter was already printed and waiting. Executive Vice President of Client Partnerships, $365,000 base salary, 12% equity stake vesting over 4 years, full operational authority over client acquisition and retention for the Southeast, a signing bonus that covered 3 months of transition expenses, and a clause that explicitly stated compensation reflects direct revenue impact and relationship value rather than market survey benchmarks. Robert had added that language specifically because of what I'd told him about Lauren's presentation. I read the offer twice, asked 2 questions about the equity vesting schedule, and signed it at 8:47 a.m. Then I drove to Greystone. I walked into my office at 9:20 a.m., sat down at my computer, and composed my resignation email. I addressed it to Lauren Hayes, copied the board of directors, Marcus Thompson, Denise Park in HR, and my direct reports. The email was 4 sentences. I am resigning from Greystone Logistics, effective immediately. I have accepted a senior executive position with another organization where my compensation reflects the revenue value I generate. I wish Greystone success with its cost optimization initiatives. I will return all company property by end of day. I sent it at 9:31 a.m. Then I started packing. 18 years fit into 3 boxes. Awards, photos, client letters, a coffee mug Tyler made me in middle school that said "World's Best Dad" with a crooked handle. My phone started buzzing before I'd finished the first box. Marcus Thompson appeared at my door. Dave, please tell me you didn't just send what I think you sent. I did. Do you have somewhere to go? I start at Meridian on Monday. Marcus leaned against the door frame and closed his eyes for a second. She has no idea what she just did, does she? She will. I walked out of Greystone Logistics at 10:15 a.m. Thursday morning with 3 boxes in my trunk and 18 years of client relationships in my contact list. I hadn't called a single client. I hadn't mentioned Meridian to anyone outside of Karen and Robert Chen. My non-solicitation agreement was clear, and I intended to honor it to the letter. What happened next wasn't something I orchestrated. It was something the market decided on its own. By Thursday evening, the manufacturing and logistics community in Atlanta was buzzing. The Southeast Corridor is a tight-knit industry. People talk. Suppliers talk to distributors who talk to fleet managers who talk to procurement directors. By Friday morning, my personal cell phone had 17 missed calls from Greystone clients. The first one I returned was from James Whitfield, CEO of Southeastern Distributors, my largest single account at $28 million in annual contracts. James and I had worked together for 14 years. I'd personally managed the logistics restructuring that saved his company $4.2 million during the 2020 supply chain crisis. When his Charlotte warehouse flooded in 2021, I drove there at 3 a.m. to coordinate emergency rerouting that kept his retail clients supplied within 48 hours. "David, I'm hearing you're no longer at Greystone," James said. "Tell me this isn't true." "I resigned yesterday. I'm joining Meridian Logistics on Monday." "David, I need to be very direct with you. We don't have a relationship with Greystone. We have a relationship with you. You've been our logistics partner through every crisis we've faced for 14 years. Greystone's infrastructure is fine, but there are 6 other companies with comparable infrastructure. There's only one person who answers my call at 3 a.m. when my warehouse is flooding. James, I have a non-solicitation agreement. I can't ask you to move your business. You're not asking. I'm telling you. I'll have my procurement team contact Meridian on Monday to discuss transitioning our contracts. This is my decision, made independently, based on who I trust with my supply chain. Is that clear enough for your non-solicitation agreement?" By Friday afternoon, I'd had similar conversations with 11 more clients. All of them reached out to me independently. All of them made the same point in different words. They worked with Greystone because they worked with me, and if I was at Meridian, that's where their contracts would go. Monday morning at Meridian was surreal. I walked into my new office to find Robert Chen grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. His phone had been ringing since Friday with Greystone clients asking about Meridian's capabilities and contract terms. At 11:30 a.m. on Monday, exactly 6 days after Lauren Hayes called me a legacy cost, my old phone rang. "Lauren Hayes, David, we need to talk about what's happening. 7 major clients have sent contract termination notices this morning citing your departure. This appears to be coordinated solicitation in violation of your non-compete." "Lauren, I haven't contacted a single Greystone client, not one. My non-solicitation agreement prohibits me from reaching out to them, and I've followed it completely. What I can't control is whether clients independently choose to evaluate their supplier relationships based on their own business needs. You might want to check with Denise in HR about the legal distinction between solicitation and organic client migration." There was a long pause. 7 clients in one morning isn't organic. 7 clients in one morning is what happens when you display someone's salary in front of 200 people and call it a legacy cost. Those clients heard about what happened in that meeting, Lauren. The logistics community in Atlanta isn't that big. And when companies hear that their primary relationship manager was publicly devalued and pushed out, they draw their own conclusions about whether their account will be properly managed going forward. She hung up without saying goodbye. The exodus unfolded over the next 3 weeks with the kind of mathematical precision that Lauren Hayes should have appreciated, given her fondness for data. Week 1. 14 clients representing $87 million in annual contracts terminated their agreements with Greystone and initiated conversations with Meridian. The termination letters I saw copies of all referenced relationship continuity and account management confidence as primary factors. Week 2. 23 clients totaling $134 million. Greystone's emergency retention team, hastily assembled by Lauren, was making desperate calls, offering extended payment terms, volume discounts, and dedicated account manager assignments. But they were offering process improvements to clients who valued personal trust, which is like offering a coupon to someone whose house is on fire. Week 3. 31 clients, $168 million in total contract value. At that point, Greystone had lost roughly 88% of the portfolio I'd managed. Trade publications were already covering the story. Supply Chain Southeast ran a piece about how a major firm's cost-cutting initiative had triggered the largest client migration in the region's recent history. On day 19, Lauren Hayes called me again. This time, her voice sounded nothing like the confident executive who'd stood in front of 200 people lecturing about legacy costs. "David, the board has authorized me to offer you full reinstatement at your previous salary, plus a 50% increase. $465,000 total package, equity participation, a formal title upgrade to executive vice president, complete operational autonomy, whatever it takes, whatever it takes. 3 weeks earlier, she'd told 200 people that my job was worth $185,000 as a basic coordination function. Now, she was offering $465,000 because she'd discovered that the coordination function happened to keep $190 million in revenue attached to the company. Lauren, I've already signed engagement agreements with 28 former Greystone clients through Meridian, representing $152 million in annual contracts. My team here is building something new, and I have responsibilities to clients who made independent decisions to trust me with their business. David, you built those relationships at Greystone. Over 18 years. 18 years that you valued at $185,000 as a replaceable overhead line item in front of 200 employees. 3 weeks ago, you told a room full of people that client relationships are institutional assets that exist independently of the people who build them. You said account management was a coordination function, not revenue creation. You were very confident about that analysis. What changed? Silence. What changed, Lauren, is that you got the answer to your own hypothesis. You tested whether $190 million in revenue was attached to Greystone's brand or to the person managing those relationships. The market gave you a definitive answer, and it cost Greystone approximately $168 million to run that experiment. I declined the offer. The aftermath was devastating for Greystone in a way that extended far beyond revenue numbers. Within 6 weeks of my departure, the company laid off 89 employees across operations, sales support, and administrative functions. The organization that had publicly proposed cutting my salary to save $125,000 per year was now hemorrhaging millions in revenue and eliminating jobs that real people depended on to feed their families. That's the part of cost optimization that spreadsheets don't capture. Every dollar of revenue that walks out the door takes jobs with it. By month 3, Lauren Hayes was removed by the board. The official statement cited strategic misalignment and failure to maintain key revenue relationships. She took a position at a smaller firm in the Midwest, a significant step down. By month 5, Greystone Logistics was acquired by a national conglomerate at roughly 40% of its previous valuation. The acquisition filing specifically mentioned client retention challenges and revenue instability as factors affecting the purchase price. 18 years of relationship building, reduced to a discounted acquisition by someone who thought it was just a line item. Meanwhile, Meridian was experiencing the strongest growth period in its history. In my first 6 months as EVP of Client Partnerships, I'd established contracts with 35 former Greystone clients, brought in 12 entirely new accounts through industry referrals, and grown the Southeast Division's revenue to $224 million, exceeding what I generated at Greystone. Robert Chen told me it was the best hiring decision he'd ever made. I told him it was the best phone call I'd ever returned. At home, things stabilized quickly. Tyler was thriving at Georgia Tech. Brandon was settling into Auburn and had joined the engineering club. Karen and I refinanced the house at a better rate, started a proper college fund for both boys, and took our first real vacation in 3 years. A week in Savannah where I didn't check my work email once. One evening during that trip, Karen and I were sitting on the balcony of our hotel, overlooking River Street. She was reading, and I was watching boats move down the Savannah River. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd just taken the pay cut?" she asked. "Every day," I said. And every day the answer is the same. Taking the cut wouldn't have been about money. It would have been about accepting that 18 years of work could be dismissed as overhead by someone who'd been in the building for 60 days. If I'd stayed, I'd have spent every day knowing that my value was whatever a benchmark database said it was, not what my clients and my results demonstrated. Karen set down her book. "You know what I think the real lesson is? It's not about revenge or proving someone wrong. It's about understanding that loyalty is a two-way agreement. You gave Greystone 18 years of loyalty. They owed you the dignity of not publicly humiliating you in return. When they broke that agreement, you didn't owe them anything else." She was right. She usually is. 9 months after I left Greystone, the Atlanta Business Chronicle published a feature story about the Greystone situation, examining what they called one of the most dramatic client migrations in Southeast logistics history. The article explored how the new managing director's aggressive cost reduction approach had inadvertently demonstrated the critical difference between salary expense and revenue value in relationship-driven industries. Several business school professors were quoted discussing how the case illustrated the dangers of applying standardized benchmarking to roles where personal trust generates outsized returns. I kept exactly one thing from my 18 years at Greystone: A screenshot that Marcus Thompson sent me of the all-hands presentation slide showing my salary highlighted in red with the label "Legacy Cost Requires Right Sizing." I had it printed, framed, and hung it in my office at Meridian. It hangs next to the Southeast Logistics Partnership Award I received 11 months after joining the company. Sometimes the most valuable business education comes from someone who doesn't understand the difference between what something costs and what it's worth. Lauren Hayes looked at a spreadsheet and saw a $310,000 expense. She never saw the $190 million in relationships that expense maintained, because relationships don't fit neatly into benchmark databases and proprietary valuation models. I got called a legacy cost at an all-hands meeting, so I walked out, and Greystone lost 88% of the client portfolio I'd built over 18 years. Not through solicitation, not through sabotage, through clients independently deciding that their trust followed the person who'd earned it, not the company that threw it away. That's not revenge. That's just the market doing what markets do, assigning value where it actually exists, rather than where a PowerPoint slide says it should be. My name is David Mitchell. I'm 51 years old, and I now understand that the most important number in business isn't the one on your paycheck. It's the one that disappears when you walk out the door.
I'm freezing. I'm bleeding. Slowly fading away. But don't worry, I'm fine. The cold has settled in my heartbeat, like winter living in my veins. Every breath feels numb and fragile. Every smile just hides the pain. I'm breaking quietly in silence, falling slow without a sound. Yet I keep saying I'm okay, while my world burns to the ground. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. Maybe pain just learned to live here. Maybe sorrow feels like home. So I wear my wounds like armor and survive them all alone. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. If you ever see me smiling, no, it's just my last defense. 'Cause sometimes love means hiding how much you're suffering. I'm frozen here, I'm bleeding slowly, dying piece by piece inside. But I still whisper, it's alright, just to keep you from goodbye. I'm shattered, love, but don't you worry, I'll pretend till my last breath. Even while my soul is fading, I'll say everything's okay. It's okay. Oh, oh, oh.
They say just forget. Move on like it's easy. But forgetting you feels like remembering someone I've never seen. I've been trying to erase you from the places in my mind, but the harder that I fight it, the more you're hard to leave behind. Every memory keeps slipping through the cracks I try to close, like a face I should remember, but somehow never know. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. Every moment turns to fragments, every thought just fades to blue, like I'm searching for a feeling that still only leads to you. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true. If I never met you, maybe I would know just how to heal, but now every empty moment still reminds me what is real. Forgetting you feels impossible, like chasing something I can't hold, like trying to remember someone that I've never even known. I keep reaching through the silence for a past I can't undo, 'cause letting go of what we had feels like losing something true.